A most excellent adventure began on June the 27th, 2016 in St. John's, Newfoundland, Labrador, at the St. John's International Airport. Around noon, a group of approximately 140 departed here for a flight to Toronto. The Freedom 100 tour was the brainchild of Derek Windsor and E&B Travel Services, TPI, in conjunction with Trafalgar, Canada. It would be an event that almost took 3 years in the planning. A special guest on the trip would be General Rick Hillier and his wife Joyce. The trip would see the group traveling to such places as Paris, Dieppe, Normandy, Caen, Rouen, Rancourt, London, and so many other interesting places. The purpose of the trip was to explore several battlefields of the First and Second World Wars and to remember and pay respects to the fallen. We would follow in the footsteps of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment in what would become known as the Trail of the Caribou. We would visit Juno Beach, Vimy, Passchendaele, Ypres, and many other historical sites. The highlight of the trip would be our attendance at the 100th Anniversary Ceremonies of the Battle of Beaumont Hamel on July the 1st, 2016. After a pleasant 3.5-hour flight, we landed in Toronto. Then, after a stopover of several hours, we left Pearson International Airport for an overnight flight to Paris. Day 2 would begin with our safe arrival in Paris. Upon arriving, we were greeted by our tour guide, James Thompson, and our driver, Lucas Willems. Following a short ride, we checked into the Mercure Hotel, and after a rest, we began a sightseeing tour around Paris with a local guide. We traveled past the Arc de Triomphe with its eternal flame and continued on the Champs-Élysées towards the Eiffel Tower. There was a short stop for photos and souvenirs. After the break, we continued to tour the city before returning to our hotel. That evening, we would end the day with a lovely meal at Chez Clement Restaurant on the Champs-Élysées. This morning we departed the hotel and drove to Dieppe for what would prove to be the first of many emotional experiences. Here, the group had the opportunity to walk the very beach where Operation Jubilee took place on July the 19th, 1942. Operation Jubilee was an Allied attack on the German-occupied port of Dieppe during the Second World War. The assault began at 5 a.m., and by 10:50 a.m., the Allied commanders were forced to call a retreat. More than 6,000 soldiers, predominantly Canadian, took part in what was called a raid. Virtually none of the objectives that day were met, and the raiding force was trapped on the beach by obstacles and German fire. Less than 10 hours after the first landings, the last Allied troops had either been killed, evacuated, or left behind to be captured by the Germans. Today, the beach rocks made for unsteady walking. One could only imagine the difficulty that our soldiers had trying to get up this beach with about 60 pounds of equipment on their backs and in the face of constant machine gun fire. Viewing the beach gave everyone time to reflect on the events that took place here. We next moved on to the Dieppe Memorial. The towering cliffs overhead bore witness to where much of the devastating gunfire rained down upon the beach. The group now had some free time to explore the town and enjoy lunch. With lunch completed, we next traveled to the Dieppe Canadian War Cemetery.
Essex Scottish, they came ashore on the right flank of the main beach. Royal Regiment of Canada had 200 and something that died that day. Because of DNA now, it makes it easier a little bit easier if you have anything go on whatsoever. The Canadian Forces is hugely involved in this. We tracked down his family. We had a funeral service for him, military honors, and we buried him in the presence of his great niece and his great nephew. And Joyce and I were there, the Prime Minister and his wife were there, and the Governor General and his wife were there. And can I tell you, we didn't bury a 90-year-old sack of bones. No. We buried a 19-year-old boy. It was quite incredible. In April this year at the anniversary, they buried 10 soldiers whose bodies had been found, identified, and were reburied in cemetery number 2. Doesn't it make you proud to be Canadian? See here all these maple leaves here?
Yeah.
And they did it to honor these men here.
Next, we travelled to the Normandy region and made a brief stop at the Vareville Canadian Parachute Battalion Memorial. The plaque was presented to the community of Vareville in June 1997 by the veterans of the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion in memory of those who gave their lives for freedom. It was in the first hours of June 6, 1944, that soldiers of the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion parachuted into this area of Normandy. Battalion members overwhelmed the German defences around Vareville, destroying bridges, the communications centre, and capturing several strong points. Moving on, our group journeyed to Caen and the Caen Memorial Museum.
And to our left, inland to Caen, there's the city centre. You can see in the foreground, behind the crane, that's the Abbaye aux Dames, and that's where Queen Matilda is buried, so the Queen of William the Conqueror. In the distance, beyond it, is the Abbaye aux Hommes, and that's where William the Conqueror is buried.
Outside, we were greeted by a large statue depicting a photo of a couple embracing at the end of World War II in New York. This stop gave everyone the opportunity to embrace some of the area's war history and artifacts. To end this day, we traveled to our hotel in the area. Here, we enjoyed another wonderful meal together and a well-deserved restful night. Our adventure will continue soon. For further information on upcoming adventures and other amazing travel opportunities, contact Travel with Derek, a division of E&B Travel Services. Call 709-728-8803 or email dwindsor@tpi.ca.